Hey there. Welcome to our channel. We're so glad you're here. Please like, share, and subscribe to join us for awesome content. Also share this video with your family and friends. Let's get started. The world is quiet just before dawn. You sit in a small garden, wrapped in a hush that feels almost sacred. The air is still cool and full of waiting. The plants around you are barely visible in the bluish pre-light, like they're sleeping, two soft silhouettes held in a breath. Then, slowly, the light begins to arrive. It touches the tops of the leaves first, feather-light and golden. You notice how the green begins to glow, almost as if each blade of grass and every leaf is drinking in the day. And in a way, they are. You reach out to gently touch a leaf. Feels simple, thin, soft. But inside this leaf, a quiet miracle is happening. Each cell inside holds tiny structures, invisible to your eyes but busy with purpose. These are chloroplasts, and they are some of the oldest, most generous workers on Earth. For billions of years, they have been taking in sunlight and using it to build life. Not loudly, not suddenly, but steadily every single day. You breathe in deeply. The air smells fresh, earthy, clean, a little sweet. That scent? It exists because of what the leaves are doing right now. They're turning carbon dioxide, the invisible breath you exhale, and water drawn up from the roots, into something extraordinary. Glucose, a sugar, a tiny building block of life. And in doing so, they release something essential, oxygen, back into the world. You breathe again. This time, it feels more intentional. You realize, your breath, your beating heart, the warmth of your skin, they are all powered, in part, by the sun touching this leaf. Food begins here. Energy begins here. And you are, in some quiet way, an extension of this light. It's easy to forget. In a world of glowing screens, supermarkets, and packaged meals, it's easy to overlook that everything you eat once depended on this ancient green magic. A tomato, a grain of rice, a handful of almonds, even the milk in your tea or the bread on your plate. All trace back to plants, or to animals that fed on plants, who captured sunlight and folded it into matter. You are not separate from this. The cells in your own body carry the legacy of this process, fueled by the sugars made in leaves, energized by the bonds first formed in sunlight. It's strange to think of your body as solar-powered, but in a very real, very physical sense, it is. The garden begins to brighten. You hear birds now, cautiously singing as the sky shifts from lavender to pale blue. Leaves stir in the gentle breeze. And all around you, photosynthesis continues, unnoticed, unwavering, generous. It is not just a process. It is a quiet gift, a flow of energy that moves from sky, to leaf, to root, to fruit, to your mouth, to your muscles, to your dreams. Each time you walk, speak, blink, or think, you are moving sunlight in disguise. You stand up slowly, feeling the morning begin to settle into your skin. You look again at the garden, now vivid and alive, and you feel something deep and calm inside you. A connection, a memory almost, as if your body knows where it comes from, and where it must return to. You wonder how this process began. Who was the first to catch sunlight? To turn it into something sweet, something living? To answer that, you must leave the garden behind. You must journey deeper, smaller, into the leaf itself, into the secret machinery where light becomes food. And so, softly, you begin to drift downward. You close your eyes and the world grows smaller. The garden fades away, but the leaf you touched becomes your whole universe. You shrink, gently, until you are no bigger than a breath, than a dust mote. Smaller still. Now you are slipping through the surface of the leaf, like mist through silk. Inside, it is not empty. It is vibrant, alive with motion. You find yourself surrounded by delicate green walls. These are plant cells, soft boxes, each filled with water and light. They sway and shimmer like lanterns floating in a tide. And inside these cells are even smaller structures, glowing with a green that feels almost alive. Chloroplasts. They move slowly through the liquid inside the cell, turning in spirals, always facing the light. They are the silent workers of the natural world, ancient, tireless, and deeply wise. Each chloroplast is like a tiny solar panel, but far more complex and poetic. They are made of layered membranes, and inside those folds, something astonishing is happening. Sunlight arrives not as heat, not as brightness, but as packets of energy called photons. The chloroplasts reach for them, like flowers turning toward the sun. And when a photon strikes the right place, it triggers a cascade, like a key turning a lock. The chloroplast splits water into hydrogen and oxygen, a clean, quiet breaking of the molecule. The oxygen is released, drifting upward, toward the surface of the leaf, and eventually into the air where you and I will breathe it in. The hydrogen, though, it stays. It becomes part of the next step, making sugar. You watch as carbon dioxide, pulled from the air through tiny pores in the leaf's underside, meets with the hydrogen from the water. In a dance powered by sunlight, these elements are stitched together into glucose, a small, sweet molecule of energy. It is simple, and yet, it holds the power to build forests, feed cities, and fuel your every heartbeat. You float through this factory of green, marveling at its silence. There is no noise, no smoke, no waste, just light, water, air, and life. Even the waste, oxygen, is a gift, not a burden. You pass by stacks of sugars being packed into tubes, the plant's version of arteries, so that energy can be sent to the roots, the flowers, the fruits. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is wasted. It is a lesson in balance. Here, you feel the incredible intelligence of nature, not the kind that speaks or thinks, but the kind that knows how to endure, knows how to feed, knows how to make something out of almost nothing. The more you watch, the more you understand. This is not just chemistry. It is choreography, a kind of slow, rhythmic alchemy, and it has been happening for billions of years. Long before the first animals, before flowers, before trees, tiny, floating organisms in ancient oceans were already performing this miracle. The chloroplasts you see here may once have been independent beings, free-living bacteria that were invited into plant cells long ago, like guests who stayed forever. Now they are partners, family. You drift past their membranes, where proteins and pigments wait in perfect position. You notice the greens, but also hidden reds, yellows, and blues molecules tuned to catch just the right light. Each one designed by nature over uncountable lifetimes. There is comfort in this ancient precision, and wonder in its stillness. Suddenly, the chloroplasts shift, ever so slightly, in response to a subtle change in light. A cloud must have passed over the garden above. But they are ready, always ready, adjusting, flowing, turning light into life. You wonder what it would feel like to be powered by light so directly, to make your own food from sunshine, to sip the sky and grow from it. But then you remember, in a way you already do. The sugars made here travel through the plant, into its fruit or grain or root. Eventually they reach you in a bite of apple, a spoonful of rice, a handful of beans. And once inside you, those same atoms, sunlight turned solid, flow into your blood, into your brain, into your dreams. You are part of this story, not just an observer, a continuation. And yet you wonder, what happens when the sunlight goes away? When the green machines fall still? Is photosynthesis the only way to make food? You rise now, lifting gently out of the cell, through the leaf, and back toward the surface. Not to return to the garden, but to drift further still, into the quiet soil below. You feel yourself gently falling, not downward in fear, but sinking slowly, like a feather in twilight. The garden disappears above you, the leaves fade, and now, below the surface, you enter a different world. It is dark here, not in a way that feels empty, but in a way that feels full. Moist, earthy, quiet, but busy in a language older than words. You are among the roots now. They stretch and curve like fingers through the soil, not randomly, but with careful intent. They twist around stones, dive into deeper pockets, reach toward water like sleepers reaching for dreams. You hover beside one. Its skin is soft and pale, a little translucent. Tiny root hairs extend outward, fine as mist, increasing the surface area, maximizing contact with the soil, as if the plant is listening, feeling for something. And it is. Water is here. So are minerals, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron. Each one essential. Each one gathered not with force, but with quiet chemistry. The roots do not grab. They invite. Near the tip of a root you see something marvelous, a partnership. Microscopic fungi, called mycorrhizae, wrap themselves around the root like lace. In exchange for a bit of sugar from the plant, they offer something the roots can't always reach on their own. Phosphorus from distant soil, water from hidden crevices, protection from certain diseases. It's a trade. Collaboration. A silent agreement formed underground, wordless but wise. This, you realize, is a kind of underground economy not driven by coins or contracts, but by balance and mutual need. And it is everywhere, just beneath your feet. You drift further through the soil and notice it is not just dirt. It is alive. Bacteria cluster near the roots, breaking down organic matter. Worms tunnel through, loosening the earth, letting air in. Tiny nematodes move like whispers. Decomposed leaves, ancient life, and even the remains of long-forgotten creatures mix here into something rich. Humus, dark, fragrant, fertile. This is not death. This is transformation. The plant above pulls sunlight into sugar, yes, but here, below, it anchors itself in the memory of things that once were. It drinks water that may have fallen as rain months ago. It absorbs calcium released from a decaying snail shell. It takes in nitrogen fixed by bacteria that once lived in the root nodules of a legume. The roots do not just take. They also release sugars, amino acids, signals. They shape the soil around them. They cultivate their own environment, gently but deliberately. And you, watching all this, begin to feel something humbling. The food you eat, the trees you rest beneath, the oxygen you breathe, all begin in this dark, unseen place. A place most people never consider. But you are here now. The soil is a library, a bank, a womb. And it is fragile. Compacted by footsteps, polluted by runoff, stripped by over-farming. It can lose its richness. But cared for, gently turned, covered, nourished, it can sustain life beyond our imagining. Even as you reflect on this balance, you notice a different kind of root. Thicker, more controlled. It leads not through wild soil but into a container, a structure. The soil around it is missing. Instead, it is surrounded by water. Clear, still, softly lit by a glow not from the sun. Hydroponics. A whisper in your mind. A clue to what comes next. You follow the root, curious. Where is the sun? Where is the soil? And how, in this quiet chamber of light and water, can anything still grow? You drift upward, leaving the root zone behind, carried by curiosity and the glow of artificial dawn. Now you rise gently, as if floating in a dream. The darkness of the soil falls away, and suddenly you are not in a garden, not on Earth at all. You are drifting inside a spacecraft, orbiting high above the blue planet below. Everything is silent here. The air is clean, recycled. The walls hum faintly with the rhythm of machines. Outside the window there is no sky, no breeze, no seasons. Only the cold black of space, endless and unchanging. And yet, in the center of this vessel, life stirs. You move toward it, a soft glow drawing your attention. A panel of light hovers over a small bed of greenery. Lettuce, red romaine, its leaves gently trembling under the subtle current of airflow. It grows in trays, not in soil, but in a special fabric that holds water and nutrients. No sun, no earth, yet here it grows, bright and alive. This is hydroponics, a way of growing plants in water, with their roots bare, fed by a carefully measured mix of minerals. It is precision farming, stripped of dirt and weather, relying instead on balance, timing, and light. And the light, it is not sunlight. It is artificial, a warm pinkish purple, made by LEDs. You look closely and notice. This color is no accident. Red and blue, the two colors plants crave most. Red light fuels growth, the stretching and building of leaves. Blue light guides direction, shape, and density. Here, in this controlled world, engineers sculpt the light itself. giving the plants exactly what they need, no more, no less. There is something beautiful in the simplicity, something futuristic and yet familiar. You touch the clear walls of the growing chamber, watching droplets condense, then slide down like rain on glass. Water here is precious, captured from air, reused endlessly. There is no rainfall, but there is a cycle. Everything is managed. Nothing is wasted. It feels unnatural at first. No buzzing bees. No scent of soil. No sun warming your skin. But still, there is life. And life, it seems, can adapt. You float a little farther and notice a logbook resting near the chamber. You open it. Drawings, notes, dates. Each page tells a story. A seed planted. A sprout rising. Leaves unfurling one by one. Then, harvest. Then, a meal eaten in orbit. You realize the astronauts are not just exploring space. They are exploring how life can continue in places the sun cannot reach. You imagine a future on Mars or the moon. Underground greenhouses. Domes with no sky. No morning, no evening, just time cycles of light and rest. In such places, plants are not only food. They are air makers, water purifiers, companions. They are a reminder of Earth's touch, even millions of miles away. And here's the strange truth. The plants don't need the sun itself. They only need the light. Photons, energy packets, whether they come from a star or a diode, carry the same spark. The leaf does not ask where the light comes from, only that it comes. Still, something inside you wonders. Is something lost without the sun? Without wind, bees, birdsong? Do plants grow differently? Do they feel less wild? Less alive? You look back at the lettuce. It seems content, green, crisp, complete, but it was raised in a cradle of wires. A perfect, sterile system. Its roots never touched real earth. Its leaves never felt real rain. It is nourishment, yes, but is it still nature? And then another question rises in your mind, soft but insistent. If we can grow food with lights and water alone, what else can we change? You glance at a second chamber nearby. This one is different, smaller, more experimental. No soil, no light, only water, and something microscopic suspended and multiplying. Bacteria, not growing in sunlight but in shadow, feeding not on photons, but on electricity. You drift toward it, curious, and feel the quiet pull of the next mystery forming. Can life grow not just without sun, but without light at all? You return now, not to Earth's fields or forests, but to a building in the heart of a silent city. At first glance, it could be a library, a lab, or a museum. But as you step inside, you are greeted by light. Not bright white, but soft, glowing hues of violet, magenta, and rose. The air is still and cool. The floor hums beneath your feet. You are in a vertical farm. Plants rise in layers, stacked like pages in a green book. Rows of kale, lettuce, arugula, all growing not outward but upward toward the carefully crafted light. There are no windows, no sky, only LED panels suspended above each tier, glowing gently, tuned to frequencies the plants love best. This is not a field. This is not a garden. It is a new kind of farm, precise, planned, almost poetic in its rhythm. You walk slowly between the shelves, marveling at the color. Each leaf is vibrant, unblemished. There are no insects here, no mud, no weeds. The air is filtered. The temperature, constant. Rain never falls, but water circulates gently, dripping and recycling through pipes. Everything is measured, controlled. But instead of feeling cold, it feels calm. Like the plants are being cared for, not by hands, but by light, numbers, and quiet algorithms. A worker nearby checks a digital display. No shouting, no tools, just a soft nod of satisfaction. The light above him shifts slightly, more red for growth, more blue for shape. You realize this is farming without seasons, without droughts, floods, or frost. A harvest can come every month or every week. Food grown closer to the people who will eat it, no long roads, no waiting. And perhaps, in places where soil is poor, where water is scarce, where sunlight is too strong or too weak, This is not just efficient. It is essential. You pause beside a tray of herbs, basil, mint, thyme. Their scent is fresh, like a memory of summer. You pluck a leaf, gently, and taste it. It is full, alive, sharp with green clarity. The plant never saw the sun, but it carries sunlight's echo inside. You sit now on a quiet bench tucked between the shelves. You notice how the lights above shift in gentle pulses, like breath. And you begin to wonder not just how this system works, but how it changes the way we think about food. What does it mean to grow something with no dirt beneath your nails? No seasons to wait for? No guessing when rain will fall? There is peace in this control, but also a longing. You remember the garden, the warm soil, the birds, the soft wind. And yet, you also see the beauty here in the glow, the cleanliness, the silence. Not better, not worse, just different. Each version of farming tells a story. One shaped by time and earth. One shaped by innovation and light. And still, beneath it all, the same quiet miracle unfolds. A seed, a sprout, a leaf. The old magic in a new home. You rise again, drifting past trays of sprouts just beginning to unfurl. Their roots are white and new. Their stems curve toward the artificial sun. As if they don't know it isn't real. Or maybe they do, and simply don't mind. You feel a question forming in you, gentle and persistent. If we can grow plants without sun, without soil, could we grow them even smaller? Not as crops in rows, but as tiny organisms, floating in water, multiplying endlessly? What if the next farm is not a greenhouse but a tank? You turn toward a softly lit doorway at the end of the aisle. Beyond it, a gentle bubbling sound, a soft green glow, and the scent of something earthy but unfamiliar. You step closer. Algae. The air shifts as you pass through the next door. Gone is the crisp violet glow of LED farms. Instead, a soft green haze surrounds you, gentle and fluid, as though you've stepped underwater. The sound here is delicate. The faint bubbling of air through glass tubes, the quiet hum of pumps. You are in a room full of life, but you must look closer to see it. Glass columns stretch from floor to ceiling, each filled with clear liquid. Suspended in that liquid is a swirling green. Not leaves, not stems, but countless microscopic organisms. Cyanobacteria. You drift near one of the tanks. The water inside glows softly, lit from below, stirred just enough to keep the organisms dancing. Tiny, invisible to your eye, but ancient, older than roots, older than flowers, older than trees. You are now in the company of Earth's first great farmers. Billions of years ago, long before even the simplest plants appeared, cyanobacteria floated in the oceans, absorbing light, splitting water, and releasing something the world had never seen before: oxygen. At first, it was a waste product, invisible, strange. But over time, it changed everything. Oceans transformed. Skies turned blue. And complex life, including you, became possible. Cyanobacteria were the first to invent photosynthesis. Not just any photosynthesis, the kind we still use today. The very process leaves rely on absorbing carbon dioxide, producing sugar, releasing oxygen began with them. And now, here they are again. Not in oceans, but in tubes and tanks. Not drifting freely, but cultivated with care. You watch as a researcher nearby draws a small sample. He holds it to the light, a test tube of jade green. Within it, billions of individual cells, each working quietly, turning light into energy, absorbing carbon, growing. But these aren't just for observation. These organisms are being raised for food, for fuel, for solutions. In some tanks, they are transformed into powders, rich in protein, ready to feed both humans and animals. In others, they are engineered to produce oils or vitamins. And in yet others, they work silently to capture carbon from the air, turning pollution into possibility. It is strange to think, the future might not be built in factories or fields, but grown cell by cell inside something so small. You kneel beside one of the tanks. The fluid inside glows in pulses, as though breathing. Each cyanobacterium absorbs a photon, splits a molecule, builds a sugar again and again. No roots, no fruit, just light, water, and air, and the memory of how to turn them into life. You begin to wonder, what makes something a plant? Must it have leaves? Must it grow in soil? Or is a plant simply a being that remembers how to eat sunlight? You remember how, earlier, you saw lettuce growing in space. Here, now, you see a different kind of farming, not of rows but of volume. Not measured in acres, but in liters. A single room like this could feed hundreds, quietly, sustainably. You move deeper into the facility and find bioreactors. Sleek, enclosed vessels, their walls alive with liquid light. Here, conditions are even more tightly controlled: temperature, pH, gas levels. Cyanobacteria thrive in this balance, multiplying with grace. And unlike crops, they do not need replanting. They do not need seasons. They simply grow, constantly, quietly, endlessly. You reach out and place a hand on the glass. It is warm, vibrating faintly, feels alive. And yet, despite their simplicity, these organisms offer something profound. A way to grow without soil. A way to produce without harm. A way to return to the beginning, to nature's original blueprint for building life. But even as you marvel, a question lingers. If life can thrive without roots, can it also survive without light? You turn, slowly, toward a shadowed corner of the room. No glow, no shimmer, only stillness. Beyond it, a different kind of organism. One that doesn't feast on photons, but feeds on electricity itself. And so, you drift again, following this thread deeper still into a world where light is no longer the fuel of life, but current. You follow the soft hum of water and light into the next space. A chamber that feels neither like a field nor a lab, but something in between. A farm made of glass and motion. Rows of transparent columns stretch out before you, tall tubes and flat panels, all gently bubbling, each filled with swirling green algae. They float effortlessly, suspended in water, turning slowly with each ripple of air. They do not root, they do not bloom, and yet, their presence is deeply alive. You walk among them, the quiet broken only by the soft exhale of bubbles, as if the tanks themselves are breathing. You approach one tank. It's glowing not brightly, but with a subtle emerald shimmer. Tiny green strands drift inside, weightless, dancing with the current. They look like mist caught in sunlight. They are ancient, like the cyanobacteria you saw before, but slightly more complex. These are algae. You've seen them before, maybe floating on a pond. But here, they are not a nuisance. They are the main event. Algae, you learn, are masters of transformation. They take in carbon dioxide, even waste CO2 from factories, and with the help of light, turn it into energy, into rich oils, into proteins, into omega-3 fatty acids, into fuel. Here, inside these bioreactors, algae are grown not by chance, but by design. Each tank is tuned, light levels, nutrient flow, temperature, all optimized to help them grow, divide, and multiply. Unlike fields of corn or wheat, algae farms don't need acres of land. They can grow on rooftops, in deserts, even inside cities. They don't ask for soil. They don't need pesticides. They don't need rain. They just need balance. You move between tanks of different colors, some green, others golden, even red. Each strain cultivated for a different purpose. One makes protein-rich paste. Another produces natural pigments used in cosmetics. Yet another, when pressed, yields a clean-burning oil. The air here smells faintly marine, salty, fresh, a little sweet. You sit beside one tank and watch. The algae don't grow as plants do, but expand outward in volume, multiplying by division, doubling and doubling again in hours, not weeks. Feels efficient, effortless. And you begin to wonder, what if future farms looked more like this? Not rows of crops, but glowing corridors. Not greenhouses, but liquid light chambers. What if, instead of planting fields, we filled tanks? Instead of harvesting with machines, we filtered water? You imagine cities with algae panels on their walls, feeding people, cleaning air, producing energy, all in silence. You remember how, just a few chapters ago, you stood in a leafy garden at dawn. The world seemed so rooted, so grounded. But here, in this fluid space, the idea of what a farm is, what food is, expands. The algae swirl, unaware of the questions they raise. They simply continue. And still, a whisper stirs in your thoughts. Loving this? Hit that subscribe button to keep up with our videos. Also share this video with your family and friends. Algae are wondrous. Yes, but they still rely on light, sunlight, or LEDs. Photons. What if life didn't even need that? You feel the pull again. A new kind of curiosity. If plants can grow without soil and algae without roots, can something grow without light at all? You turn from the glowing tanks toward a darker hall. It is cooler here. Still, you step softly, and ahead, you see something unexpected. No leaves, no water, no light, just metal, wires, and a faint electrical pulse, like the heartbeat of something yet unknown. You have arrived, where life feeds not on the sun, but on current. You step into the quietest room yet. Gone are the bubbling tanks and the hum of artificial suns. Here, there is only a faint pulse, steady, subtle, like the low rhythm of distant thunder, or the beat of a new kind of life. You are in a lab, but not one of leaves or water. There are no roots, no photosynthesis, just sleek vessels, dark wires, and panels that blink with coated light. At the center of the room stands a simple box, small, stainless steel, unremarkable. But inside it, a quiet revolution is unfolding. You draw near. Within this chamber, colonies of bacteria feed, not on sugar, not on sunlight, but on electricity. This is electrosynthesis. You blink slowly, trying to grasp the thought. Life, eating electricity? And yet, here it is. The microbes within are fed a small current, nothing intense, just a trickle like a whisper. They take in carbon dioxide from the air, the same gas you exhale, and with the help of electrons delivered through wires, they build molecules. Fats, proteins, even simple sugars. Feels like watching alchemy. But it is biology, ancient instincts meeting modern design. You gaze at a monitor nearby. On it, data streams quietly. Growth curves, voltage, pH. The scientist beside you nods gently and whispers. They're making food from thin air and power. You move closer to a clear panel in the machine. Inside, the bacterial culture is pale and cloudy, like milk in motion. They are invisible to your eye, yet they multiply, divide, build. These aren't the bacteria that cause illness. They are helpers, engineers of the microscopic world. Some were found in the strangest places, deep in mines, where no sunlight has ever touched stone. Near hydrothermal vents on the ocean floor, in caves of eternal darkness. They are used to feeding on electrons. They have no chlorophyll. They have no roots. And yet, they are alive, completely powerfully alive. You watch as carbon dioxide flows into the chamber. No plant captures it. No leaf absorbs it. Instead, electricity drives the reaction. Electrons are handed over gently, and molecules begin to form. You begin to imagine the possibilities. Food made in places where farming is impossible. The icy plains of Antarctica, the sealed modules of a Mars habitat, the cramped quarters of a space station orbiting Earth. These microbes don't need sunlight. They don't even need fertile land. They need only air, water, and a quiet current. You sit beside the machine, quietly listening. There's no soil here, no rain, no roots. But the end result is the same. Energy becomes matter. Carbon becomes calories. Life continues. You imagine a future pantry, where packets of food are grown not in fields, but in reactors. Where power from solar panels or wind farms feeds microbes, and microbes feed people. You wonder, is this still nature? Is this farming? Or is it something new? You rest your head lightly against the wall, feeling the slight warmth of the machine. This way of growing is not beautiful like a garden. It has no breeze, no birdsong. But it is elegant in its simplicity, its efficiency, its quiet promise. You breathe slowly. And even now, your own body, built from food, from sugars, from sunlight long ago, begins to understand. There are many paths from energy to life. Sunlight, algae, electricity, different doors, same room. And still, one more question stirs. If we can grow food without farms, without sun or soil or seed, How do we choose what is best? What does it mean to grow something that nourishes not just your body, but your soul? You open your eyes. The machine pulses again, gentle and steady. Outside, the world is still turning. And ahead, a new question rises, soft and full of weight. If we can grow food this way, should we? You sit in the quiet now, no longer drifting, still centered, surrounded by memory of gardens, leaves, soil, light, and wires, chambers, currents, green in glass. It is time to reflect. The journey you've taken has unfolded like a long breath, from sunlit leaves to subterranean roots, from glowing vertical shelves to swirling algae tanks, and finally, to a machine where microbes dine on electricity. You've watched life grow in every way imaginable, without soil, without sky, even without light. And now, a question rises like mist. What does it mean to grow? Is it only about calories and chemistry, carbon in, energy out? Or is there something deeper in farming? Something older, quieter, harder to measure? You remember the garden at dawn, the feeling of air still cool on your skin, the smell of leaves stretching toward light, the rhythm of wind across the grass. Fed you, not just your hunger, but something more, a kind of peace, a kind of knowing. To plant a seed in the earth, to wait for the rain, to feel the sun warming both your skin and the soil beneath your feet. This is not just biology. It is belonging. And yet, the world is changing. You think of cities growing taller, of fields drying under unkind skies, of hunger still aching in too many places. Vertical farms, bioreactors, electrosynthesis, these are not fantasies. They are here now, real answers to real problems. They offer abundance, precision, sustainability. But what might we leave behind if we choose only these paths? You wonder about the birds that once circled over old fields, the bees that hummed between wildflowers, the fungi that whispered to roots beneath our feet. Will these vanish from the story if we grow in sealed rooms? You begin to see the question is not about replacement. It is about balance. We do not have to choose one world or the other. We can remember the wisdom of the earth, even as we build new gardens in steel and light. Maybe farming is not a single way of life, but a long conversation between sun and circuit, between tradition and invention. You breathe slowly, letting the silence hold you. Each method you've seen has something to offer. Soil teaches patience. Light teaches adaptation. Algae teach efficiency. Electrons teach possibility. And perhaps the truest form of nourishment comes when we learn to listen to all of them. Not just the loud voices of progress, but the soft ones of roots and rain. You rise now from your thoughts. The journey is not yet over. Outside this quiet room, people are still asking questions, still planting seeds. Some in earth, some in liquid, some in code. You walk slowly to the door and pause. Behind you, wires pulse softly, like veins in a sleeping body. Ahead, the sky, not just of Earth, but of other worlds. And so, with one more question settling gently on your breath, you step forward. If food can come from anywhere, what kind of world do you want to grow it in? And more quietly still, what kind of world do you want it to grow you into? Growing food on other worlds, you stand now at the edge of Earth, not on a mountaintop, but in your mind, looking outward. The sky above is no longer just blue. Curves into black, into stars, into questions. If life can grow in tanks, in wires, in the dark, can it also grow out there on other worlds? You close your eyes and imagine stepping onto Mars. The red dust clings to your boots. There is no sound, no breeze, no birdsong. But inside the dome, a single green leaf stretches toward a lamp, its stem trembling gently, as if it remembers sunlight from a dream. This is not fiction. The work has already begun. On the International Space Station, seeds float in sealed chambers, monitored gently by astronauts. Some sprout, some bloom, some are eaten, a bite of Earth in orbit. These experiments are humble, a few leaves, a handful of roots. But they carry enormous questions. How do you farm on a planet without soil? Without weather? Without worms or seasons or rain? On the moon, the gravity is weaker. On Mars, the radiation stronger. There is no rich, living soil, only dust, sterile and sharp. Yet the dream persists. Domes with filtered light, hydroponic tunnels beneath the surface, nutrient-rich mists sprayed on leaves, recycled air, recycled water. A closed loop where nothing is wasted and every breath is borrowed. Here, farming is not a lifestyle, it is survival. It is engineering. It is hope. You picture a greenhouse on Mars. Not green at all, but silver, wrapped in insulation, lit from within like a lantern in the dusk. Inside, spinach, or potatoes, or microalgae swirling in tanks. You smile, remembering the potato crop from an old science fiction story. But now it doesn't feel like fiction. It feels like preparation. We are bringing seeds to the stars. But you wonder, what else do we bring? Do we bring the rhythms of earth, the quiet patience of rain, the memory of birds nesting in branches? Or do we build farms that forget all that? Efficient, clean, silent. You hope we remember both, that we carry not just the tools of growth, but the feeling of it, the awe of a sprout breaking through soil, the scent of mint after rain, the way light touches a leaf and makes it sing. Because even in a dome on Mars, the sight of something green, something alive, might be more than food. It might be home. You walk now through this imagined greenhouse, its walls humming, its air recycled, and you touch a small tomato, red and firm, grown in artificial light, but holding within it the same sunlit sweetness as its cousins on Earth. You realize something gently profound. The seed doesn't care where it grows. Mars, Earth, Moon, its code is the same. Give it water, warmth, carbon, and light, and it will unfold. Not because it understands where it is, but because it remembers what it's for. To grow, to feed, to reach. You breathe in. The air in this imagined dome has passed through leaves. It is made richer by their work. Even here, millions of miles from Earth, photosynthesis holds you. Light becomes breath. Breath becomes life. And life, it seems, can find a way almost anywhere. You step back from the glass. The stars beyond twinkle like tiny seeds, waiting. And the chapter you've been writing, from gardens to galaxies, is far from over. You leave this vision with a quiet thought. Perhaps farming is not just how we survive. Perhaps it is how we remember who we are. Rooted not in place, but in purpose. And as the first greenhouse rises beneath an alien sky, we might whisper to the leaves, grow gently, grow well, and carry Earth with you. Because even in the darkest places, a single green breath can light the way. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. See you next time.